Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great first day at I/O. My name is Subir, and I work on cloud messaging. When we launched Google Cloud Messaging in 2012, our goal was to make it the best mobile messaging platform, and we wanted to give you the tools to reach your users, notify them of important events, and upkeep your data in your applications fresh. Today, GCM is used in more than 1 million applications, reaching more than 2 billion devices. And we receive around 2 million queries every second. That's over 170 billion messages a day. And this growth has been just amazing. We're always improving our infrastructure so that we can scale more as more developers take our platform for their messaging needs. We believe the two most important aspects of any messaging platform are reliability and low latency. GCM is extremely reliable. We deliver every message that you intend to send to your users, honoring the constraints that you provide. And GCM is fast. For an online device, our mean latency is around 60 milliseconds, and our 95th percentile is around 160 milliseconds. There is another talk on GCM performance factors, and it goes into insights on how we measure and improve on our performance and reliability. I highly recommend going to that one if you're interested in this area. GCM is an integral part of a lot of applications today, and messaging is a feature that almost every developer needs and uses for engaging with their users. Studies have shown that users that have push notifications enabled have almost 3 times higher retention and 88% more app launches. And that means more user engagement for your applications. Now, earlier in the keynote, we announced a new mobile development platform, Firebase. Firebase is a suite of integrated products which are designed to help you develop your application, grow your user base, and earn more money. And GCM shares these same goals. We believe we can offer a lot more to developers when integrated with other Firebase products. So I'm happy to announce that as we are launching new features to GCM, this year we are renaming it to Firebase Cloud Messaging. So what this means, that cloud messaging is one of the products in the Firebase family, having seamless integration with other Firebase products like Firebase Analytics, making it easier for you to develop, grow, and earn from your applications. And this uses the same underlying messaging infrastructure that we have today, so you can be assured you'll receive the same level of reliability and performance that you're used to. So what's new with Firebase Cloud Messaging, or FCM? Well, we've really simplified our SDKs. It's really simple APIs to start using FCM. You can reach multiple platforms using FCM, and based on your feedback, we've added a lot of new features. So let's get started. Our new SDKs are designed to make the integration with FCM much, much simpler and take away a lot of code from you. Let me explain. Firebase messaging SDKs for Android and iOS take away a lot of boilerplate code away from you. Code that you had to deal with yourself before, like registration logic, subscribing to topics, handling any errors you get with our servers while doing these actions. All that is taken care of automatically. Just another example. These are all the permissions that you had to worry about before with GCM. Not anymore. Our new FCM libraries use manifest merging, so you don't have to worry about permissions. It automatically adds any permissions needed, and just one less step for you to worry about. We've also simplified the registration flow. As you know, a registration token is the address that FCM uses to deliver the message to a device. Now this process is asynchronous. Our libraries automatically get a token on your behalf. So when you call iid.getToken, we give you an already registered token. All you have to do, send this to your servers and start sending messages. Now, all the improvements that we are going to announce today apply to both our Android and iOS SDKs. Our goal is to make FCM really cross-platform. Now, in addition to having SDKs for iOS and Android, we are also launching a brand new SDK for our C++ users. Now you can have one implementation to reach your users on both these platforms. And I'm sure our game developers are going to love this. Now we will get into more details on how to use these new SDKs in just a bit. As you saw, FCM is cross-platform. Last year at I/O, we added support for iOS and Chrome apps in addition to Android. And we saw a great adoption on these platforms. And it was a very strong signal to us that developers can really use one solution to reach users on different platforms. So we are making it even easier this year by adding a brand new C++ SDK and with web push support on FCM. With FCM, you can now implement the standard IETF web push APIs and start targeting your browsers. For example, on Chrome, you can send a message to your Chrome page in Windows, Mac, or Linux. And you can also target your Chrome on Android. Let's talk about some features we've added. Last year, we launched topic messaging. And by the way, this is one of my favorite features. Topic messaging allows you to send a single message to a large number of devices. It's a great way to notify your users that are interested in common topics, like a musician or an artist or a game or a sport event. All you have to do is publish a message to FCM, and FCM delivers it to all the devices subscribed to this topic. We also had a limit of 1 million subscribers when we launched this, and a lot of you asked for more because you have more users. So we are removing any limits on topic messaging. Now you can have as many subscribers on a single topic or across different topics in your application. Quick reminder, this is how you send a message to a topic. All you have to do is set the topic name in the to parameter. But what if you want to send a message to a combination of topics? For example, let's say you have a weather application, and you want to send weather updates to your users. Now, some of your users can be subscribed to topic for San Francisco weather, and some can be subscribed to topic for Oakland. So when there is a weather update in this area, you don't want to publish the same message on both these topics, as there might be an overlap, and some users will get duplicate messages. Now you can use our brand new API to specify a condition. And FCM will make sure we only deliver this message to users that qualify this condition. So in this example, the message will be published to users that either have the San Francisco weather topic or the Oakland weather topic. So it's a union of users. You can also hit an intersection of users by using the AND operator. Now we know you have all these registration tokens on your servers. Wouldn't it be great if you can just categorize them into topics based on your users' interests? I mean, after all, you know your users' interests. Yes, you can. Here is the API with which you can subscribe a registration token to a particular topic. For example, the topic name here is movies. All you have to do is give us the registration token and the topic name in a URL. And FCM will subscribe this to this topic. You can also send us a bunch of registration tokens, and FCM will subscribe them when you send them to this batch add URL. You don't even have to update your application anymore. You can just start using topic messaging from server side. Similar to the batch add, with batch remove, you can unsubscribe these tokens from this topic. Now, just a word of caution before we proceed. When you send messages using topic messaging, we allow you to publish to a large number of users. So when you publish too fast on big topics, you should make sure that if you see any errors from our servers, you should retry later. And if these devices in turn are going to hit your servers for more data, you should make sure your servers are provisioned to handle that traffic. Do we have any iOS developers in the room? Oh, we have quite a few. Last year when we added support for iOS, a lot of iOS developers asked us if they can just use their existing APNS tokens and start using our service. And the answer today is yes. Now we have an API with which you can send us your APNS tokens, and FCM will give you back registration tokens for those APNS devices. Here's how you do it. You can send us an array list of your APNS tokens to the batch import URL, and FCM will return you back a registration token along with the status for each of those APNS tokens. Now you can reach your iOS devices via FCM using these registration tokens. Really simple. And you don't even have to change your application. So we've covered a lot so far. Our brand new SDKs, platforms that are reachable by FCM, improvements like removing limits from topic messaging, API to send to a combination of topics, an API to subscribe automatically from your server side, and an API to import your APNS tokens. And before I forget, all this with FCM is still free. Now, as promised earlier, let's get into details on how to use our new SDKs. And I'd like to invite Liam on stage for that.
Hi, I'm Liam, and I'd like to talk about how to use these APIs in your apps. For each of Android, iOS, and C++, I'll cover the basics of integrating FCM. First, we'll cover iOS. And for all your Android developers out there, don't go anywhere, we'll get to you shortly. The first thing that you need to do is add a dependency on Firebase Messaging to your pod file. And now I know that you've all been waiting for some code, so let's move on. As you already know, a registration token is used for sending a message to a single installation of your app. And as Subir mentioned earlier, we now automatically get a token for your app and handle all the errors in exponential backoff. So all you need to do is call this one function. And we do the same for subscribing to a topic. And we hope that these improvements will make things easier for you. And while these examples and the ones that I'm going to give are in Objective-C, we are also fully compatible with Swift. To handle token refresh events, you need to add an observer to instance ID token refresh notification. This is called if your token ever changes. So when you implement this, you should upload the token to your server. This is also called when we first get a token on your app's behalf. So by implementing this, it means that you'll always have the correct version of your app's token on your server. Now that you have a token and are subscribed to topics, let's move on to how to receive and send messages. To receive a message, you need to implement the did-receive remote notification callback. Here you'll get a user info dictionary, and this will contain your from address and all your message payload data. And to send a message, you need to call send message, and here you pass in all your payload data, the to address that starts with your sender ID, the message ID, and time to live. And we'll try to send this message immediately, and we'll keep retrying if there are any errors until your time to live expires. Now, one thing to be aware of when you're using our APIs on iOS is that we use swizzling, so integrating FCM can be done using a single line of code, and it's very easy to get started. What this means is that we add some hooks into your app to automatically call FCM methods at runtime. But if you want to disable this, you can. You just need to add a flag to your info.plist file. But if you do this, make sure that you call these two methods to ensure FCM works correctly in your app. And here we have a big green Android. And as you've probably guessed, I'm going to talk about using Android in your apps. Using FCM in your Android apps. So first here, you need to add a dependency on Firebase Messaging, and this time to your app level build.gradle file. Our Android APIs are very similar to our ones on iOS, and we do all the same. We also automatically get a token for your app and perform retries. So all you need to do is call getToken. We'll handle the rest. And likewise for subscribing to a topic. To handle token refresh events, you need to extend the Firebase Instance ID service and override on token refresh. And just as with iOS, Here you should upload your app's token to your server. Now let's see how we receive and send messages on Android. To receive a message, you need to extend the Firebase messaging service, override onMessageReceived, and here you'll get a remote message object from which you can get the from address as well as all the message payload data. One other thing to be aware of is that when you send a notification message and your app is already in the foreground, instead of posting it to the notification tray, instead we'll call onMessageReceived so you can handle the notification intelligently while the user has your app open. And you can get all the extra notification payload via remote message.getNotification. To send a message, you need to build a remote message object and pass it to send. Just as on iOS, you set the to address, the message ID, the time to live, and your payload data. Now let's look at the changes that you need to make to your Android manifest. And I know this has been a pain point in the past with lots of copy-pasted permissions and receivers, but now all you need to do is add one entry for your Firebase Instance ID service and one for your Firebase messaging service, just like any other Android service. And that's it, you're done. For all you C++ developers on both iOS and Android, as Sabir talked about, we have an API for you too. On iOS, this does all the bridging to Objective-C APIs, and on Android, it does all the JNI work of talking to our Java APIs, and also includes proxy classes that pass the messages to your C++ code. And we've made all these changes to make your life a little bit easier. So to link in the C++ SDK, on iOS, you need to drag these two frameworks into your xcode project. And on Android, you need to link to these two static libraries and add the proxy classes to your manifest. When your app starts, you need to initialize Firebase messaging by passing in a Firebase app object and a listener class. Note that when you create the Firebase app on Android, you also need to pass in the JNI environment and an activity, but these are the only differences between the APIs on each platform. The listener class has callbacks that you use for handling a message and for handling new tokens, but I'll give you an example of that in a moment. Now that you have the SDK set up, how about subscribing to a topic? And again, this is a simple one-liner. And just like in Objective-C and Java, we will keep retrying if there are any failures. Here is an example of that listener class that I talked about earlier. You need to implement onMessage, where you'll get a message struct, and that will contain the from address and the message payload. And you also need to implement onTokenReceived, where you should upload the token to your server. To send a message, you create a message struct and pass it to send. And this takes all the same parameters that I talked about earlier. Now, there are a couple of things to be aware of when you're implementing FCM in your apps. First is to make sure that you handle token refresh events. This will make your app more secure and ensure that you always have the right version of the token, so your users will never miss messages. And second is don't try to use our new FCM APIs as well as the old GCM ones. Otherwise, you might get some unexpected behavior. But don't just take it from me. Hear from 3 of our partners that have already successfully integrated FCM into their apps. First is Le Figaro, the oldest French daily newspaper. And they talk about how trustworthy and reliable a tool FCM is. Next, we have Quaver, an app to help you create music and collaborate with other musicians. And they talk about how simple it was to migrate from their previous messaging platform to FCM. And last, we have Fabulous, an app to help you create healthy habits in your life, who talk about how convenient it is to have one messaging platform that talks to both iOS and Android. And now I'll pass the floor back to Sabir.
Thanks, Liam. That was fabulous. So we've covered in detail how to use our SDKs, platforms, and improvements in FCM. Let's talk a little about our integration with other Firebase products. This is the Firebase console, and it's designed to make integrating these products very easy and simplify your app management. As you can see, you can access all your project settings in one place. And here's the URL to access it. Specifically for cloud messaging, you can see all your settings in this one page. You can see your server key and sender ID, and these are the same credentials you use when you authenticate on the backends. iOS developers can upload their APNS certificates right here, so we can successfully send messages to your iOS devices. And there is this notifications on the left menu. Now what is that? This is Firebase notifications, and it's built on top of Firebase Cloud Messaging. It's a very easy to use tool to create user engagement campaigns, target a segment of your users, etc. Let me show you. This is what it looks like. It's a very simple web console. You can create a campaign for now or later. You can send messages to a user segment that you can create. It can be all users with an app version or with a combination of application versions, all users with a Firebase audience, all users running a particular language on their devices, etc. You can also send messages to a topic and also to a single device. And that's very useful when you are debugging or developing or testing your application. And not only can you send messages using this campaign, you can also see how effective they are. You can now see how many messages were actually sent using your campaign, how many users clicked on it, how many opened it, and how many users went through a conversion event. A conversion event can be something you define, like an ad click or an in-app purchase or something like that. And now you can calibrate and see if your notification strategy has been working the way you wanted it to. It's really powerful. And all this rich data is made available with our integration with Firebase Analytics. Firebase Analytics. There's another talk on Firebase notifications tomorrow, which is going to go into details of all the powerful features available on this console. So if you're interested, please go to them. Everything we talked about and all the other details are available at our brand new documentation website. Please check it out at firebase.google.com under Cloud Messaging. And these are the talks that I mentioned during this session. If you are interested in push notifications, I highly recommend going to these talks. I hope you all are excited about Firebase Cloud Messaging and enjoyed this talk. Thank you very much, and let's open the floor for questions.
So if you have any questions, you can go to the center of the room.
Yep.
There's a mic. And line up for there.
Mohit.
Mohit, you want to?
Is it possible? Hello?
Yeah.
Is it possible to use Firebase Cloud Messaging to send messages to our users who are on a Safari or a Firefox web browser? We don't need the desktop notifications, just to send data to those.
No, not with FCM, because FCM implements the web push API, which is already integrated in Chromium. So any Chromium-based browser, it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just Chrome. Okay.
For the conditions on topic messaging, you said there was and there was or. Is there any plans for something like and not, where I want to send to these two but not this third one?
We haven't. That's a good idea. I'm going to take your feedback, but we don't have it today.
Oh,
It's and ors.
yeah.
And you can use two operators, so you can have three topics in the condition.
Hi there, short question. Do you have any recommendations to migrate from GCM and APN to FCM now? Because then if a user doesn't update his app, you have like 3 systems to manage instead of...
Yeah, there are migration guides available on our website.
Okay.
Yeah, for both iOS and Android.
We're still going to support GCM for the foreseeable future, but if I was writing a new app today, I would use Firebase Cloud Messaging.
Okay.
So do you know what the foreseeable future is? Like currently I have Google Play Services location and GCM messaging. Now I'll have Firebase messaging and Google Play Services location, which will then both pull the cores from GCM core or from Google Play Services core and Firebase core, correct?
Yeah,
So, but if I wanted to stay on GCM, how long-ish?
you can stay there. There's no reason that it should stop working or anything. But again, if you are writing from scratch and you have new apps, you should use FCM.
There will still be a version of GCM in Google Play Services and the newer releases that are coming out, but it's not going to get any new features.
Thank you.
Hi. In the past, GCM was only available for devices or Android devices with Play services. Does Firebase still have that limitation?
So,
Yes.
yeah, we do have that limitation.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.